You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
And welcome to this edition of Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. I am your host, Richard Franzi. This is podcast episode number 1066. And boy, do we have a great show for you. We have two returning guests. Loyal listeners know we don't bring a lot of people back on the show, but these two guys were so good the last time. They've got so much more to talk about. I just couldn't say no to having them back on the show because in just 18 months, Spinnaker Investment Group surpassed $250 million in assets under management, proving their commitment to helping individuals find financial stability and independence. Today I've invited Morgan and Joe back to tell us about the trends for wealth management, and it's a hot space right now. So gentlemen, welcome back to Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's do this so that maybe people didn't hear your previous interview on the show.
Of course.
Let's start with you, Joe, and then Morgan. Tell me a little bit about your background. What were you doing before this?
Yeah, so Morgan and I worked together at a previous firm for about 10 years, so we decided we can do this on our own. Let's get out there and make it happen. So we were in the investment business with a previous firm, and Morgan and I got together and made the decision to go out on our own.
So who brought the subject up first?
That was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
How many lunches did it take?
Yeah, it took quite a few lunches, absolutely.
Okay.
So I've done it for about 25 years, and I was with Joe Joe and I together, I don't know, close to 10.
Wow.
And I said, I think we can do this probably a little bit better. And
What did you think you could do better? Obviously, you were right.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that one. But what was it you saw that would be different if you two had your own brand?
You know, I think what it is, it's being that we're a smaller firm, we're more nimble. We're able to make decisions quicker. We don't have to have meetings to have meetings. It was a decision that we both want to grow this thing. We both want to we're committed to this business. We're committed to our clients. And when there's a decision that needs to be made, we did it.
Okay, so let's talk about, I call it your niche. Okay, so here on the radio show, we're using the platform to help me with my fourth book, which is called The Critical Mass Company. And what I know from surveying companies that are able to grow successfully, because there's a lot of companies that grow and unfortunately are less successful even though they're bigger, that most times, those companies that grow successfully have a very clearly identified niche or niches with which they build relationships for prospects and customers. So I'm going to ask you, do you have kind of a category, a classic customer, and can you share that with our audience?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, and I'll let Joe elaborate on one of these, but we work a lot with business owners and we work a lot with attorneys. On the business owner side, you know, they like smaller firms because they're decision makers. They like to work with decision makers.
Right.
They like people who have new ideas and they can help them because, you know, we're all paying taxes. How can we save taxes? How can we save money? And then attorneys, I'll let Joe talk a bit about. I mean, but basically when you look at attorneys, you have a lot of people making some money that have a lot of opportunities, and so
Yeah, we call them Henrys, high income earners not rich yet.
Okay.
So for us, it's a lot of individuals that are earning high income and looking for a way to reach that financial independence. Not necessarily love what they do, but it's a means to an end, so we help them gain that financial independence as quickly as possible, and they're really good at outsourcing. So whether it's a small business owner or an attorney, those are two niches that we own and that we are heavily invested in marketing towards.
Okay, so I would assume here on octalkradio.net, my audience demographic, I know skews towards business owners. I would assume some of those entrepreneurs are also in the legal profession.
Absolutely.
So you're really talking to some members of the community that might be interested in learning more about Spinnaker Investments.
Absolutely.
What makes you guys, tell me more about what makes you different. Why were you able to grab so much, what I consider market share, right?
Yeah.
$250 million of assets under management.
You know, we broke our philosophy down very simply, and it's ABC. Asset allocation, you can call that a commodity, but the B is behavior and C is cost. So I'll talk about the middle one, the B, the behavior. And that is we take our clients from the beginning and put a plan together. So it's a tough time right now in the investment world because it seems easy. Right? It's so easy.
Who
Why
would
do
be
I need,
unhappy, right?
That's right. Who's unhappy? I don't need advice.
Yeah.
And
Look how well I'm doing, right?
Right. That client that was conservative is now more aggressive. You got Bitcoin. There's a lot of things that people can make behavioral mistakes right now. And so we really focus on that. And so it's A, B, C, cost, C, and then I think the apostrophe S, Joe could get into.
That's something that Morgan and I decided when we launched our new firm is really the ABC is apostrophe S, which is social capital. So if your advisor can help you get networked and help you as a business owner, whether you're in the legal profession or a physician or whatever, a CPA, whatever that business might be, we want to create a network, an environment where we can bring young professionals, executives, whoever, together to build on their business and help them with business development. So it's all about bringing our clients together, bringing our networks together, and really being the quarterback for those clients. So the social capital is huge.
Social capital, is that a giving back to the younger generation?
It's
is that
both.
what you're talking
It's
about,
both.
or?
No, it could also be the quarterback for a client that comes in and says like, "Hey, I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA, and I want to find business."
Okay.
Well, let's host an
Okay.
event. We do a
Okay.
lot of attorney events. January 30th, we're gonna be at the Pacific Club. For us, it's bringing 75 attorneys, some of the top talented attorneys here in Orange County, and we give them a platform where they learn about cybersecurity, and also gives them a platform to network with other attorneys.
Attorneys love the network.
They
with,
do,
right?
absolutely.
They're so specialized, right?
yeah,
so
no
you
question.
know that.
Right.
Okay, so you're offering these other member values, client values to really help them grow their business, not only their wealth.
It's both sides. It's the social capital, which is giving back to the community, like you
Right.
said, but also helping them build their business, right? Because
Right.
any advisor, at most part, can do asset allocation. We believe we do a much better job on the behavior side, but some can keep their costs low. But what else are they doing for you? It's introducing other potential clients.
So
It's
what do you
business
do?
development.
What do you guys do to keep your costs low?
Well, when we build portfolios, we use exchange traded funds, institutional, mutual funds, but also the way we built our company, we use a lot of technology. We keep our basic overhead pretty low.
Okay.
For a firm our size with 2 guys and 1 staff and 6 other advisors, I mean, that's unheard of for the size of firm with 1 staff member.
Okay.
Right. So we were so efficient. We invest in technology and really keep our costs low so we can then give it back to our clients.
Absolutely.
So that I would think business owners appreciate.
Business owners, they love it. They absolutely appreciate it. And, you're not going to walk into a marble building, but they appreciate that.
With the big fountain.
That's right.
Across from the Ferrari dealership.
That's right. They're not getting it, but they'll see it in their pocketbook.
Maybe a Lexus. We're down the street from Newport.
Don't you? Yeah,
Lexus.
don't you have a Newport Beach?
We do.
We do.
We're near the airport. We're near the airport.
You're in that Irvine part of
Yes,
Newport
yes,
Beach,
there
right?
you go.
Yeah, you're right there on.
Just made it.
Just on Carmen, but yeah, I got the zip code, baby.
Don't cross the street. Don't cross the street.
That's
and
right.
you're near the Pacific Club.
We're right across
Absolutely.
the street,
That's a great
yeah.
area,
It was by
though.
design, yeah.
Right,
That
right.
way we can walk there.
Yeah, that's right.
Very intentional. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're having some fun here in the studio. These are returning guests. They're comfortable with being on the program. I want to take just a short break, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere, because if you listen to the show before 30 seconds, it's going to be one quick word from something about meat.
Richard Franzi is a highly sought-after keynote speaker on topics of interest to CEOs of middle firms across North America. Richard's talks include Killing Cats Leads to Rats, a fascinating look at how unintended consequences of CEOs' decisions impact their firm's performance. Your Gray Matter Matters, which explores how a CEO's mindset can differentiate a middle market firm and define its culture. Richard delivers talks to a variety of audiences, ranging from executive team retreats to keynotes in front of hundreds of CEOs. To learn more about his talks, visit criticalmassforbusiness.com and select the contact page or call 949-887-4104.
When you use the Premier Rewards Gold Card from American Express, the rewards points can keep on multiplying. Buy 3 with triple points on airfare. Buy 2 with double points on gas and groceries. And a single point for pretty much every other dollar you spend on the card. Then, start choosing from over 1 million rewards to redeem all those points. Apply today and the annual fee for the first year is on us. Call 1-800-AXP-GOLD or visit AXPGold.com. The annual fee for the card is $175. See terms, conditions, and restrictions at AXPGold.com.
Okay, welcome back to Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. I am your host, Richard Franzi. All of our shows can be heard anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker.com, several hundred former guest websites whose CEOs have appeared on our show. And since 2009, when we started broadcasting the show here on octalkradio.net, we've reached hundreds of thousands of listeners through the live stream, our podcasts, and their other channels. Simply type in Critical Mass Radio Show into your favorite podcasting software, and you'll receive our weekly wonderful interviews with great guys like Morgan and Joe from Spinnaker Investments. All right, let me ask you if you can think about an indicative example of a client. I know we have to be careful with what you say, so we can, I don't need names or anything, but help my audience to understand kind of the role that you play as the wealth manager for a typical or indicative client. Do you have one that you could share with us?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
I'll give you an example that's an individual client, and it was someone who came to us that was at a large brokerage firm, and reviewing her costs, reviewing what they were doing, and her overall, it was a good size account, very expensive. And what they didn't do was all the other things in her world. Not so much the social capital, but didn't look at her insurance, look at her homeowner's insurance, look at all her entire, just everything. Everything. When we fixed her portfolio, got that on track, but then we look at her homeowner's insurance, and they just sent her to some person. Didn't really check it out. She was paying probably double what she should be paying. Looked at her long-term care insurance. All the way down the line, that was someone that just, not only in the portfolio did we save her a tremendous amount of money, but all these things that she had been cutting checks to for years, that she saved thousands and thousands of dollars. But it was really taking a more holistic approach and looking at everything for her and really helping her understand the process.
I would think that's a great example, and I would think, we use the term trusted advisor, right? And certainly if someone's going to allow you to see their personal net worth and take your advice on how to grow that, you're pretty trusted.
Well, that relationship came through a CPA.
Okay.
So the CPA got a hold of the client. The client said, hey, I've got questions. My current advisor at this big brokerage shop is not talking about annuities. Does this make sense for me? A light bulb went off his head. He contacted us. We got in touch with it. She was okay with sending over statements. We started reviewing things. Next thing you know, we pulled over the entire client relationship.
Right.
And it's trust, right? You're managing money.
Right.
And it's emotional.
And then, but also then to look, because I know I work with small business owners, their life can be kind of complicated. Right, because there's this difference between their business and themselves, but sometimes there's this not
one
so
of the same.
separate, right? That's kind of gets
Absolutely,
yeah. And sometimes they disadvantage themselves because they're focused so much on the right insurance and everything for the company that almost the energy level sometimes to deal with their own personal stuff, you only have so much energy.
They don't pay attention to it. No,
right, and they almost don't have. Doesn't feel to be as pressing as the issues in business, but yet long term, it can be every bit as damaging or beneficial to them.
Right, and their business is usually their biggest asset too.
Yes.
So they're hyper focused on that, but they're not paying attention to all the other areas.
Right.
Well, one of the reasons we love attorneys is because they're billing so many hours. You're billing 2,500 hours a year. Do you think you really have time to look at your 401k at the end of the day? No.
Right.
So it's where we come into play. Say outsource this. Yeah. You don't have the time.
Don't spend 6 minutes looking at your IRA.
Yes.
Get back. You can bill those 6
We
minutes.
need to bill those hours. We need you to make it
billable.
money.
Yeah.
We'll
Billable
take care
time,
of it.
baby.
We'll take
Billable
care of
time.
it.
All right,
Yeah.
Morgan and Joe. What have you guys done? Because another part of what we see in the critical mass research for our next book is that companies that scale and grow successfully are able to stay responsive to their clients like they were in the good old days when they were smaller. You've grown your assets under management. That assumes you brought in more clients. What are you guys doing to make sure you're giving that same service level that you were when you started?
Well, I think, as we spoke of earlier, the technology, but we also just brought in a young advisor that we're going to start, integrating in with some of our clients. So we picked a set amount of clients per advisor, and we want to stick to that so that they get, even though we're larger, we want the boutique feel. So they still get that high-touch service. So we have brought in some junior advisors to really help in that world.
But there's no balance in life, right? Morgan and I are working harder than we ever have in our entire lives.
Okay.
And one thing I find is that if the clients want it now, we're going to figure out a way to make it happen. So for Morgan and I, it's getting up early, getting our workout in, getting in the office early when markets are open, and then working late in the evening.
Oh yeah, because
And that's just the way it is.
being on the West Coast, you guys have a very early
6:30 market calls.
Right.
kickoff, right? So to get a workout in and get ready
You
to
gotta
get to
get
work,
in,
you're up when it's still dark.
Absolutely.
Right. And I know from working with business owners and entrepreneurs, when you make that step to bringing in people who are going to deliver the service that you delivered, that's a little extra effort on your part, right?
Absolutely. And it's a process, and we haven't fully integrated, and I think we're still holding on, so we're not completely letting go of it, but we're going through it.
But one thing with business owners that you would know too is clearly defined roles. Morgan manages the assets, I do the business development, right? And we
Okay.
both kind of cross over at certain points. But having those clearly defined roles as business owners makes all the difference in the
It
world. Because
does.
he stays on his side of the fence,
Yes.
I stay on my side of the fence, and we make it work.
I've had a number of people here on the radio show and in my peer groups who've been business partners for decades, and one of the common things I've learned from them is they started out with a mutual respect and a different skill set, and they never lost respect
Oh,
for the other
absolutely.
person's skill set, and the other person always carried the weight for what they were supposed to do.
Absolutely.
And that's because after a while, your roles change, but you still have to be delivering the value like you did when you.
That's absolutely right. Or why keep the partnership?
Right, and
Yeah.
then you start to resent them and stuff.
Yeah.
That's not happening here. No,
We've been working
way.
together 10 years already. We know
already
where we're at.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
like a marriage. So,
It is.
author Michael Gerber talks about working on your business, not just in your business. So, and you guys, it's amazing to me how much you have to know, the kind of calls that you must get from people. You mentioned Bitcoin, right? And just all these esoteric or boundary conditions that they may have heard of over one of their friends at the club. I mean, what do you guys do to stay current with all that you have to know while you're working as hard as you're working?
That's why he's the wizard.
Yeah, and that's part of the division of roles here. I read a lot. I mean, I'm reading everything. I go to conferences. I go to a lot of things. So it's getting up early. I go for a run, or I read. I mean, it's constant reading, constant. I look at other people's news, just everything. There's so much information out there. It's just constant. You have to constantly keep up with it, because the last thing you want is that client calling you and talking about something that's kind of a hot topic, and you're like, hold on.
Right.
You got to know, and
Right.
you have to also have an opinion.
But it's never being too proud to not listen to your clients as well, because we have such a unique balance of clients, small business owners, big families, whatever, across the board. You listen to what industry they're in, they start telling you a lot of things about what's going to happen. So we find out a lot of times we listen to our clients, they tell us a lot what's going on in the market.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a prime example. Back in '06, that's, two things that happened. One, I had we had a cleaning lady that had 3 houses. I realized the housing prices were a problem. And so then we also had a client of mine was in the, the tape business, sold duct tape, and he was slowing down. And that's, that means housing slowing.
Canary in a coal mine.
That's right. So you learn a lot from your clients. So you do have to listen to them.
Well, that's interesting. I don't want to go in an area where you guys can't answer, but you mentioned Bitcoin, and I'm just wondering, are we, in your watching the marketplace, are we seeing something that's a fundamental change as it relates to digital currency, or is this something that's too uncertain at this time to be able to forecast?
I think it's very uncertain, but I think the blockchain will make some significant changes. The blockchain makes a lot of sense, and basically it came out of the crisis in '07 there. I mean,
Right.
basically people didn't trust the banks. That's the first time. I've been through a couple, after 25 years, I've seen a couple markets pull back. This is the first time I've had clients that actually wanted to take money out of their bank and put it in their brokerage account because they didn't believe their bank was there. And so I think people are saying, these banks have been crushing me for years in fees, and I don't know if my money's going to be there. So I think it's here. It's here for the future. Is it a currency right now? Probably not. A bit too volatile. But that blockchain is very impressive.
I think that the Great Recession that we all lived through has the same potential for lingering memories as the Great Depression for the people who lived through the
Certainly.
Great Depression. I think I see that in my business owners. It affects their appetite for hiring and their appetite for risk. Even all these years after, we got like the second longest recovery since World War II. People are still worried that we could slide back into what happened
We're
in
100 months
09,
into this
08.
recovery.
Right.
I have clients that that they will not spend their money. They will not live because they came out of the the depression era of babies and all that stuff, and those type of people that they won't spend. I mean, he has since passed, but his son was a doctor, and his son's like, "Don't save this money for me. Enjoy yourself." You're right. It'll linger.
Yeah, I think it will. So we're out of time. My engineer tells me we have to say goodbye. So if someone would like to learn more about your firm, how online would you recommend they do that? What's your website?
Our website is www.spin-invest.com.
Instagram, Facebook, social media, all
There you
over.
go. There you go.
All over.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, and LinkedIn. Go with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been great.
Thanks for having
Congratulations on the meteoric growth. I knew
We
it.
appreciate it.
I knew it from knowing
Couldn't
you
have done it
two.
without you.
No. Well, I'm sure we played a small role in
did,
Critical
you
Mass
did.
Radio Show.
Right.
You really can't
Absolutely.
tie it to it, but I'm sure we helped.
We're going to track it.
We certainly didn't hurt.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll have you
Love
guys
it.
back when you hit the next. What's the next big milestone that you guys have?
We're gonna hit 300 million this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's on to 500, and that's the goal.
At what point? Okay, I know I'm out of time, but you got me curious now. I know you guys measure each other relative to assets under management, right? What is like the holy grail for you two guys of asset? Is there a ceiling on where you want to be, or?
There is, and we've sat there and had these conversations. Really, 450 to 500 is fine for us, and
Okay.
we think
Good size.
we'll grow beyond that. The reason is you start getting up to $1 billion. Now you're a company that has to have an HR department. You have to get the the company book. All those things. We have to have all these
Trainings.
and
Right.
so
A different ballgame.
we could go backwards as far as how we could
Right.
what we could earn and all that. And we lose touch with the client. So I think that's our sweet spot.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll be
Okay.
back.
All right.
Hope you
let's-
have us.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I don't know when that's going to be, but I
Right.
know it's going to happen. All
All
right.
right,
Thanks,
good.
guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
being on
you.
the show. I
Good
want
work.
to thank our engineer and station owner, Paul Roberts, for manning the board here today, and our producers are Haley Stern, Crystal Nunley, and Joan Park. If you want to connect with me on social media, I'd say Twitter's a good place. CEO Peer Groups is my Twitter handle, CEO Peer Groups. On LinkedIn, I'm Richard Franzi, Franzi. Website is criticalmass4business.com. And until our next show, I hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.
You have been listening to Critical Mass Radio Show Business Talk Show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.